curious fact that the portion of England that seems most truly English is the Welsh border. This, of course, is an illusion. Decrepit inner cities, monotonous suburbs, dreamy spires, forests, mountains, moors, beaches, hills, landing grounds, and more can all be found in England, and each can justly claim to be a part of the English landscape. Nevertheless, England, crowded and urban for the most part, sells itself as a green and pleasant land with gently undulating grassy hills, dotted with patchy woods and scattered villages that time forgot. It is in Cheshire, Shropshire and Herefordshire, where England ends and Wales begins, for the landscape conforms most precisely with the myth. I see no correspondingly bold self-assertion across the border. The towns and villages of eastern Wales could be anywhere, if it were not for the bilingual road signs that stand incongruously, to remind travellers that they have crossed a divide. It is as one travels westward that the hills cease to roll, their contours sharpen, their height grows, the luscious grass gives way to rusty heather, the sheep multiply, and the vowels take their leave and retire. Again, this is another myth. Russet heather, sheep, mountains, and all the rest are scarcely Welsh monopolies. Indeed, that most stridently Celtic province, the Llyn Peninsula, is so alike in both outline and landscape to Cornwall that I am surprised creationists have not seized upon the two lands as evidence of an intelligent designer. An example, perhaps, of divine copying and pasting. The best way to truly immerse oneself in a landscape is to travel by bicycle. Walking is too slow, while seated within a car one is not truly present in the land at all. A motorbike might seem to offer the best of both, and on my travels I often pass bikers, the midlife crisis rather than the Hell's Angel variety, but I have no desire to find out. The roar of the engine, the stifling helmet and dense leather jacket, would no doubt interpose between me and the living world. No, a bicycle is the only way to travel. It is best to set off before dawn, and to reach a hilltop while the skies are turning red. Near the border in that hybrid land, half Celtic, half Saxon, I can gaze over the Cheshire plains and watch the mists of night still clinging to the ground, lit now by the scarlet eye of the rising sun, and then onwards, to scale the sharpening hills, to look out over dewy heather, to look up at buzzards, ravens and kites wheeling in a sky still pallid in the sun's feeble rays. It is best in autumn when the air is cut with a fresh chill, all the sharper for its unfamiliarity after the heat of summer. The effort of surmounting these heights is a reward in itself. Exertion begets exhilaration, the force of labour generating a surging joy purer and wilder than can be found in any of civilization's easy pleasures. When hurtling down a hillside, this joy combined with the thrill of speed and approaches meditative heights, for such feelings of self-transcendence do not typically survive an abrupt encounter with the tarmac. Destination is a secondary concern. I may sometimes trace out an old route, or I may drift aimlessly through the hills. Finding a place that entrances me, I dismount and proceed on foot. Now I can examine the landscape in detail. There are two main types of sight which might command my attention. First, there is a hilltop or a mountain peak. Here I can survey the world below, high enough to view both the sharp angles and russet slopes of Wales and the gentle undulations of England. Plains and river valleys turn bluish with distance, often scarcely distinguishable from the sea. Here I am alone, loftily detached from the everyday concerns of humanity. All the labours of the world with its petty concerns and puerile amusements are nonsense now. But in the peaks I am removed, not just from human decadence, but from nature too. The hills are bare. They were not always so. Once vast forests blanketed their highest peaks. Once boar, lynx, wolves and bears roamed these hills. The empty hillsides offer a stark grandeur, but when observed in detail they present a monoculture, as bare and manufactured as any concrete desert. My other destination is the remnants of that ancient forest. Here sweeping panoramas and lofty detachment are denied to me, but in their place a living world springs and leaps at my senses. Birdsong pulses and undulates through the branches. Streams gurgle and whisper watery tales. Sunbeams rend the air while insects dance golden in their path. Here I may lock eyes with a fox, a stoat or a hare, and freeze into the moment, self-transcendence again, courtesy of nature's gurus. These realms are small and fragmented, a lost remnant of a once verdant dominion, overcome eons ago by human endeavour. But the verdants too can overcome, we conquer. It was on one of my woodland retreats, not as it so happens in the hills, but on the anonymous Welsh side of the lowlands, that I witnessed nature's reconquest. It was in a little patch of greenery just outside a mid-sized nondescript village that I saw what I took at first to be a clearing. Investigating further, however, I saw the ground was concrete. All around and bursting through the cracked artificial surface, trees sprang, as they no doubt will from every surface if civilization's hubris is ever introduced to Nemesis. Wandering further, I saw the remnants of old barns, their roofs imploded, walls crumbling. There were other more puzzling structures. Broken tower-like chimneys lay splayed across the ground, far removed from any building that they could have served. In places the woods gave way to forests of buddleia. In others the delightful wilderness had been supplanted by monotonous assault of rhododendron, or Japanese knotweed. These gave a clue to the ruins' original structure, further hinted at by the sight of walled gardens overcome by full-grown yew trees, and finally confirmed by the sight of crumbling roofless buildings, of corridors exposed to the elements, and chimney pots standing among the trees flanked by decaying walls. This had once been a mansion. Over the following weeks I became increasingly fascinated by these ruins. I asked around the village, no one seemed to have heard of them. Online research drew a blank. In all my forays among the shattered buildings, I did not spy another human being, yet the land was traversed by well-trod paths. It was as if the land had been thrust into our world from some other domain. Amongst ordinary mortals, none knew of the ruins, but some secret community of other beings, half hidden, wandered through these lost woods and decrepit buildings. One might think, in light of all this mystery, that a sense of foreboding or of sinister presence pervaded the ruins. This was not so. The place was filled with a lovely, though melancholy beauty. In trance I would spend hours poring through these mysterious remains, delighting in the elegant collision between human remnants and nature's luxuriant flourishing. One day nature called to me in more ways than one, and drew me under the shade of a tree I had not seen before. It was evergreen and yet deciduous, and I felt at once that it was not a native species. The trees were thick and somewhat resembled holly. The leaves were thick and somewhat resembled holly, though their outline was a little more rounded. As I drew under the branches, I noticed many of them drooped down sharply, only to abruptly sprout upwards, something like a handwritten tick. At the juncture of one such tick, I beheld a grotesque formation. It was a face with its left profile turned to me. The thing was reminiscent of some hideous deep-sea fish, but its eyes were lidded, and its mouth bore eerily human-like lips. The mouth was fully visible, for it seemed almost to have been wrenched to one side. The jaw hung horribly agape, as if the thing was screaming. I was startled by the sheer gruesomeness of the image, but I quickly regained my composure. Pareidolia, I thought, the instinct to see ordered structures, especially faces, in random chaos. I turned to look at the reverse side of the image, which I was sure would not be symmetrical, and thus dispel the illusion. Now, though, I saw something truly disconcerting. The right side of the grotesque face was indeed asymmetrical, but the lifelike illusion was maintained. In place of the right eye, a massive gash had scored the wood, exposing the branches' decaying innards. This rotting wood had took for all the world like brain tissue. Below this, the face was twisted, great lines of contortion converging on that nightmare mouth. The whole effect was to give the impression of some horrific monster, a thing of unknown and awesome power, its face drawn into an evil expression, not of hate or rage or jealousy, or any other paltry human emotion, but of an alien malevolence far beyond mortal conception. Dark moods of a dark being. All this was conveyed in a piece of wood no bigger than my fist.